Well, the battle lines over President Trump's revised immigration order are now being drawn tonight, as now 6 states have jumped on a lawsuit trying to ban the travel moratorium. The attorney generals from all of these states are Democrats, and Hawaii filing its own separate lawsuit. Of course, Donald Trump's order will be challenged in 2 back-to-back court hearings next Wednesday, one brought by Maryland, the other by Hawaii. Joining me now to discuss, Rich Lowry, Herb London, Danielle McLaughlin, and Michael Wilds. Herb, I want to start with you. Very inflammatory language, particularly from the Hawaiian attorney, bringing up racial superiority, going back to things that Donald Trump may have said, not as a candidate, but as citizen Trump a long time ago. Is that fair game?
Well, I think it's distinctly inappropriate. What you have here is a move on the part of the left and these attorney generals who represent a kind of left-wing orientation, who are doing everything they can to demonize the Trump administration. This lawsuit is not going to go very far. By and large, the President of the United States has the overarching responsibility to provide for national security. We did hear that, though,
with the Washington, with the previous law, legal challenge.
That's right. Well, again, what the administration did was to try and offset that by making some changes, obvious changes, like Iraq being taken off the designated list. But in my judgment, what you have here is an attempt on the part of attorney generals to do what many on the left are doing in the United States, and that is to undermine this president. I don't think it can go very far. And in fact, as I've suggested, if the president is intent on providing for national security, he has the responsibility for looking at the documentation that comes from war-torn nations.
Speaking of which, Danielle, the idea that this is a quote-unquote Muslim ban, when it doesn't cover the Indonesia, India,
sure,
places with significantly larger Muslim populations, and it really does. It seems pretty obvious to me. What do they all have in common? Broken down governments where it's pretty hard to vet anyone.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think this travel ban is much more narrowly tailored. From a legal perspective, the challengers have much less chance.
Well, from
of
a progressive,
successful.
though, you're progressive. And
yeah,
some of the things they're saying, it's a Muslim ban, it's
right,
about white racial superiority.
Right.
I mean, are those things now way out of bounds?
I think they are. And I think what they're hanging their hat on is the Trump campaign promise of a Muslim ban. And what the administration has done with the second second travel ban is to be careful about its language as it relates to Christians and favoring Christians. It's obviously taken out Iraq. It's not worrying about legal permanent residence or visas. I think it's going to be a really tough sell for any of these attorneys general. Michael,
when it comes to this immigration, you're one of the best in the world with this. What's your assessment of this new travel moratorium and the legal challenges to it?
It's more of a visa ban than a Muslim ban, in my opinion. This could have been eradicated and done and dusted had the Secretary of State just sent the cable to those embassies, the American embassies in those nations, saying that we're just going to check in the vetting system. But if you pull the lens back on the landscape here, Charles, the truth is Venezuela has a terrible vetting system in place, and there's been monies through terrorism that's been funneled through there, and they weren't put on the list. This president should not be curtailed, but at the same time, he, under the 1965 version of the Immigration Act, is not allowed to discriminate based on national origin. So I think that from a legal perspective, it is more narrowly tailed.
But can he scrutinize based on risk to Americans?
Yes, he can, if it's a holistic risk. You had an NSEERS program years ago by President Bush who restricted all males from Arab nations. That was more palpable because it went across the bar. When you exclude Chinese in the 1800s, you inter Japanese in the 1940s, you're bringing back, when you national origin discriminate, those feelings. Now, I don't believe, truthfully, that the president is a bigot or has any prejudice at all in his system. I believe he is genuinely inclined. The problem is that we have a visa system in place. If these visas were not vetted properly, why now is he allowing all of this to go on? Why?
We've got a new
also,
president.
way,
let me bring Rich into this conversation, because it's a new president with new ideas. That's what people are saying in this country. Maybe Michael's right. We should have done this a long time ago. Doesn't mean we should not do it now.
Well, it's black and white provision in the immigration law that the president has this authority. And the 1965 language that Michael alludes to was not meant to overturn that provision. So I think the initial executive order was clearly legal and constitutional. But if the Ninth Circuit could block block that one, it can block this one as well. And it's just unprecedented to go to a president's statements as a candidate and use that to try to undermine his legislation. Plus this Hawaiian challenge. It says the executive order is unconstitutional because it violates the Hawaiian spirit. Where in the Constitution does it say that every law has to abide by the so-called Hawaiian spirit? And what is the Hawaiian spirit to begin with?
Why
I think this is totally without
the
merit.
Trump administration?
Michael, real quick.
You want to send me on assignment, Charles, to go understand the Hawaiian spirit?
Why didn't the Trump administration already vet these visas? Why is it that they haven't used the last 3 weeks to do the vetting? And why is it that we're running scared? Why do we stop and put a moratorium completely on taking any refugees? When we fought pirates in the 1700s, we continued to open our shores to people in jeopardy.
Yeah. Michael,
why are we running scared?
Things have changed a lot. You see that. You see around the world, and you see where the Western nations have had open arms, including America. And we've paid something of a price for it. This, I think, is a reset button. Here's the good news. Danielle McLaughlin went to New Zealand. She was afraid they wouldn't let her back, but she's here.
She was
So it
investigating
works.
the New Zealand spirit.
All right, guys, thank you very much.
Right.
Herb will be
Hard
away for
country
2
to get
weeks. He's
into.
gone to Hawaii.